Hi, my name is Dafna Naphtali. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised in New York City. My creative output is as a composer, a performer, and an improviser. I'm an electronic musician, I'm a vocalist, and I'm also a sound artist, and I'm a guitarist. I have an eclectic music background. I've been performing since I'm a teenager, and I've always been interested in both science, math, and music. And I've spent a lot of time trying to coordinate all of those loves. To realize my electronic music projects, which is a lot of the work I do, I write my own software using Max MSP from Cycling 74, and I compose by playing, singing, improvising, and also traditional scoring, gathering ideas from my active outdoor listening practice and by making field recordings. My major projects since the 1990s are each respectively a long series of pieces. Each project investigates a particular aspect of manipulating sound, either recorded or live, and considers how it's performed and how it's experienced. The work I'm doing is in three main areas. The first is live sound processing, and what I mean by that is performing with microphones on other instruments and manipulating the sound in various ways during the performance, using usually a computer with my Max programs. So I enter the performance space with nothing, and I create something out of the other person's sound, and that's the instrument I play. So that's a practice of mine. I've written about it. I have put out many duo recordings this way, always putting microphones on the other player, using delays and filters, and maybe tracking the sounds that the other person is making and using that to control something. So that's live sound processing. Much more readily available for everyone now than it was when I started in the mid-90s. The second project that I was talking about, the multi-channel sound, I call audio chandelier. And I found even just naming it that helped me think about how I wanted the sound to be in the room. Sometimes it's shimmery, sometimes it sounds like electronic music, but the basic materials are that I take a single sound and I break it up. You could think of it as pixelating, by playing the exact same sound in every speaker at the same time, but slightly shifted using a process called granular synthesis. So I put one grain in each speaker, and then I can pitch shift a little bit or move forward or backward in the sample file, because in this case I am working with field recordings of my own. And then I can really shift how you feel in the room and make it feels to me a little bit like the experience I used to have when I would go camping, and I'd be the one who wakes up at 5 in the morning to go listen to the woodpeckers, because I would hear woodpeckers all around me. And I thought that was so marvelous, just to be completely immersed in this sound. So yes, it is an immersive experience, but I don't want to recreate the forest. I want to make a forest. If that makes sense. Yeah. So sometimes it feels like a field of crickets. Sometimes, though, it also feels like a field of crickets that turned into motorcycles. So I like to play with that. I often do this live. And then I'm playing the room, because I may have speakers all over a large theater, and I can like make that one really low and this one really high and seesaw, and it's really fun. I also made several sound installations, including one called Audio Chandelier Polyelios, which I made together with my sister, Dafna Naphtali, who's a master metalsmith and designer. And in this case, instead of me performing or having it be a sound installation where there's no visual, we decided to make speakers together, and we designed a series of speakers that are related to her jewelry and her jewelry designs. And later I made yet another installation called Audio Chandelier Passeri, which is about birds. Another theme in my interest has been about birdsong. And by extension, more recently, I've also become very interested in trees, and we'll see that as a theme in my work as well. A third area that I've been working in and made a whole series of pieces is audio augmented reality sound walks. I initially did this with Richard Rodkin and uGroove, which is a platform that he developed, enabling me to we created a smartphone app that would be aware of where you're standing while you're walking around a designated space. My first one was in Washington Square Park here in New York. And as you walk around, I can provide a list of sounds or compositional motives that will play back, sometimes things I've sung, sometimes field recordings that I manipulated. And by doing that, I can create an experience for you that will be different every time, because it's built on a game engine, and it perhaps enlighten or inspire someone to think of a place in other ways than they usually do, investigating psychogeography and looking at all the ways that people have had listening practices and also do sound walks. I tried to bring in many, many different things that I do.
You hear the bass?
Yeah, and birds.
Like, We're right.
So we're right in the middle.
We're right? Yeah, cool.
So it may move quickly now.
It's kind of, what is this, Dafna?
It's a hippie gown. It's not a real gown.
Oh, yeah.
You hear the swamp sounds?
Yeah, it's like a bird.
Yeah.
This is
So, yeah, see, it still thinks we're here, so. Another experience I had with live sound processing was, and this is also about why as musicians it's really important for us to help other musicians that are just coming up and give them ideas about what they could possibly do. The wonderful Kathleen Zapovi, Exploding Piano, asked me sometime in the 90s if I would process John Adams' Phrygian Gates. I did it 10 times. It was so interesting to me. It was so interesting to sound. How one night they could just one, because there were more people, there were fewer people, it was cold out, it was hot out. And so that's part of why I say that the physical reality and the body is involved. This is the physical world actually changed how I could play this piece. Towards the end of that time, Kathy said, you know, if you write your own piece for me. And so I got my first commission from American Composers Forum for a piece called Landmine. It's for Yamaha disc clavier, which is a kind of a player piano that involves MIDI, and Kathleen is playing and I am looking at the notes that are coming out and doing things to it and then sending notes back to the piano. At one point she's improvising with a kind of a toy that I created in Max, and you can see her improvising with it. But the clips you're going to see come from 2000, 2004, 2014, and then we finally went into the studio in 2016, and I have some footage of that, and I'd like you to see what that looks like. And then it came out finally 20 years after it premiered on Kathleen's record Eye to Ivory on Starkland. Another project, early 90s, was called What Is It Like to Be a Bat? And it was something that I did with Kitty Brazelton, composer, vocalist, extraordinaire. She approached me because she'd seen me sing. She didn't know I worked with technology. So she was one of the people who said, "You're a technology person, I thought you're a singer." People would say to me, "What, you sing? I thought you were a technology person." And that a lot of times people had a hard time balancing the two things or holding both thoughts in their head. Kitty, once she found out I was doing computer music, was excited because she was up at Columbia, but she was also working with computer music. Columbia, so we made what we called a digital chamber punk group, along with the wonderful Danny Tunick on drums and percussion and recorder and whatever else we asked him to do. And this was me in the early 90s. You can see I'm processing Kitty's voice and my voice and triggering things, but I had to do it with my feet because my hands were busy playing guitar. Here's a clip from the kitchen around 1997 or 8. The audio's not great, but you'll see what we're doing. When you see me yell into the microphone and say, "Ha," everything after that is just a delay. So I have no pre-recorded sounds on my computer. More and more, I'm finding there's a large degree of overlap between my various projects, so I don't feel spread so thin. Meow. They all involve real-time sonic abstractions of real-world sound. Yes, you want to come in? I'll process the cat. And they also all involve an engagement of the body for the listeners and for the performers and for me. And as a singer, of course, I'm already using my body, but I feel it's very important when I play electronic music, when I work with delays and a lot of internal feedback in my computer process, that I stand when I perform, that I feel like I can shape it with my hands. That means with the live sound processing, I am performing the room. I'm engaging with what the acoustics of the room are, how the person is playing. I'm listening. Are there sharp attacks? What can I do with that? And I've developed a whole aesthetic around live sound processing and improvisation. And I have written about it. I have blog posts on the Music Box, and I'm writing a book about it right now. For the multi-channel sound, I want to recreate an experience that we all have had where we hear many, many copies of the same sound all around us. But I want to do it in a way where I'm not making a virtual environment. I am literally making you sit with many, many copies of the same sound coming from different physical locations in the room. I'm going to keep going. That cat wants to come in. She can come in. Okay, well, acoustic music, electroacoustics, interactive music technology, multi-channel sound, and sound walking are all exciting to me. If we want to think about how sound walking uses the body, well, you're walking. And you're walking through a physical space, and you're hearing many, many different versions of my piece, depending on where you walk. And because everything is built on a game engine, you could physically walk into a certain area because you want to hear more of that sound or that type of sound. You could choose not to go to a certain area. You could engage in listening to what's actually going on around you, because part of my concept with the sound walks is not only that there should be surprises and it should be different and aleatoric, but also that whatever sound you hear while you are doing the walk, I consider to be part of the piece. Since I made my first one in Washington Square Park, that often involves musicians, people yelling, people dancing, or chanting. So I do find that that was kind of a fun experience for me as well, just making it. there was one part of Washington Square Park while I was building the piece where there was construction going on constantly. I think every time you walk by there was construction, so I made a piece out of the construction noises. And one very satisfying thing for me was to walk by the construction noise piece while they were doing construction, because then all of a sudden I have my piece together with what they're doing. And if I were to walk by on a day or at night where there is no construction, then my piece becomes kind of a memory of what happened in that location. So working in that area not only engages my body, but it also began to, I got interested in psychogeography, and I began teaching classes on sound walking as well, because I think that the body also, as you're walking through a certain place, we remember sounds that we had heard in that place as well. So this is why I say that all three of my areas of work somehow involve the body. Acoustic music, electroacoustics, interactive music technology, multi-channel sound, and sound walking are all exciting to me. I do not see my tools or my instruments as separate from my music and my thinking about music, nor do I think of sound as being different than music. So this year I had the year off, fellowship. I was fortunate to get a Guggenheim this year, which after so many years of teaching was such a gift. I spent some time at McDowell Colony and also at Kimmel Harding Nelson in Nebraska, and I found that the new things I wanted to do were not part of all these other projects. If I was going to be honest and try really new things, it's not live sound processing, it's not multi-channel sound, it's not a sound walk, although it could be eventually. I've been writing poetry my whole life. Now the words are coming. I started writing songs with guitar and reaching back into my background as a jazz guitarist and trying to reconnect with that. I also found that living in Greenpoint, we've had a lot of, necessarily had to be involved with a lot of activism around environmental issues. And when the developers came here and started cutting down trees, I got concerned about where are the birds going to go, because I love birds and I love birdsong, so we planted trees. But then I started getting very interested in trees, and over the last number of years I've taken probably 1,000 photos of trees. And so my newest project, the one that's hard because it's new, because I'm trying new things and they don't work, and then I try another thing and it doesn't work, and then I get something really great. I'm very interested in the structure of the trees and how I can sonify them, but in an intelligent way, really getting to the bottom of what I find beautiful about them. And so that's the newest thing that I'm working on. Hopefully you'll get to see some of it soon.